Okay, here's another one. I'm just reflecting. I'm sitting here just reflecting. If you're listening, great. But I love this space of reflection. And I was going to tell you about my dad and my experience around what happened in that time of my life, because it might help someone. That's what this is about. As I always say, I'm not giving you answers. I'm not telling you anything. I'm just using my experience to bring something alive within you, because you might recognize something within you. So I would have, if anyone had told me that, when I was 19, my dad was going to get ill, and by the time I was 21, it would have all been too much for him. And he checked out. I think he couldn't see beyond the pain. He couldn't see a life living with constant pain. I think he knew that we'd all be okay. I really do think he knew that we had everything we needed. And so he left us. That was what made sense to him. And yeah, if someone told me, that was going to happen, that I was going to lose my dad so young in such a way, I would have said, oh my God, I'd never cope with that. There's just no way. I wouldn't be able to carry that. I wouldn't be able to bear it. I wouldn't be able to bear that. And yet I did. I did bear it. We all did. But the interesting thing is that what I didn't realize, I didn't see, is that I created a whole story around it. And then I lived that story for the next 30 years of my life. So I began to imagine the way my dad died. I began to kind of think about it, and I told myself a story around it. I imagined the moment that he actually ended his life, and I told myself, how tragic and how lonely and how scared he must have been, and I had imagined this story so much, so often, that it was like I was standing next to him when he died. And when I woke up to this, when I started to see beyond my thinking, see beyond all of it, become the awareness, become who I really am, recognize, I had this moment, and it came in a flash. It was like, oh my God, Kate, you created that. You weren't there when Dad died. You were off at uni. You weren't there standing next to him. You have no idea what was happening in that moment. And I'd never seen this before. So before, I'd been living it. Every time anyone mentioned Dad, I would immediately go to that thought of how he died. I would immediately be in my head. I would immediately get quite upset. I wouldn't be able to talk about him because I would immediately be there, standing there. When he died, it was just so real for me that I kind of just could never really think about him beyond that moment of how he died, when he died, and as if I was standing there next to him. And then I saw it. I was like, oh my God, you created it. All of it. And when I saw that, it was literally as though Dad was on my shoulder, or not on my shoulder, but kind of peering over my shoulder. Or he was just like, and he was like, Kate, what took you so long? And I felt this incredible connection with Dad that was missing for the last 30 years because I had just connected with my limited thinking around how he died, and I could access all these wonderful memories of Dad. I could connect with his presence and his humor and his being and his all of it. It was all there. I'd blocked it all out with this one thought about, oh my God, Dad, this tragedy. The tragedy of Dad became this story. And it wasn't there anymore. It just wasn't there. And, this friend of mine who was a counselor, she said, wow, I told her about it. I was like, oh my God, I had this moment. I connected with Dad beyond the story that I'd created, that this whole tragedy of Dad was gone. And it was just Dad again. Dad beyond all of it, just Dad. And she said, and as I was describing it, she said, wow, Kate, that must have taken so much work, so much processing. Well done. You've come through this, you've processed it all. No, I didn't process anything. I didn't work through that. I didn't change anything or do anything. Well, I did. I changed my mind. But it didn't take work and effort and trying. It was just a recognizing. I can't say that word. It was a realization. It was a flash. I created that. I have no idea of how anything was when Dad died. How do I know that he wasn't experiencing this feeling that I'm in now? This oneness, this sense of being, this sense of everything is okay. How do I know? And you might say, well, you're creating that as well. You're just in denial. Or you're just positive thinking. Or no, it doesn't feel that way. It's just in the unknown, anything is possible. What I feel, this connection, this oneness, this sense of being, that is my Dad. That is all of us. I can't know what he experienced. I don't need to know. But I am aware of what I was creating and how that was getting in the way and how it was creating such a heaviness for me. And I think we do this without even realizing it. And then we lose connection with someone and we can't think about them and, we can't remember them, or we can't see them beyond the story. We're so mesmerized by the story that we're creating. There's no awareness around it. And when I saw it and it fell away, I didn't do anything. Just wasn't there, it evaporated. And like I say, it was as though Dad was there, kind of giving me a big hug and going, flipping hell, Kate, that took you 30 years. Bloody hell. And I laughed. I really laughed. And I cried. And I laughed.
Where is the beach?
And if I can share that with anyone to bring a bit of, I don't know, is there something that you do with your mind that you connect with, that you bring alive again and again and again, and it feels heavy? The things that feel heavy are heavy for a reason. To get us to look at them, get interested. What we create in our mind. And then it can fall away. And it doesn't take work and effort and doing. It takes awareness, curiosity. And it's so amazing, and it's so... Life doesn't need to be what we think it is. You see beyond all of it, and you can have a different experience of the same experience. Anyway, I don't know, that'll help one person, but maybe. I'll leave you there.